Taco Bell, product placement with Taco Bell. Incherito, macho, burrito.
That's the thing. What are you doing here?
I've come to kick ass.
Hello, everybody. We're off to a little bit of a late start today, but we are here. Happy Friday, my friends. Friday, let's go. We're doing a special stream today with guest Michael Mato. And we're getting rated by Michael right now. Let's go. Thank you, Michael. Thank you. This is Too Much Tomato. If you ain't following, show some love to Too Much Tomato. And we're gonna have some fun today. Get into talking a little bit about some game dev. Let's bring him on up in here. He should be joining. Let's see. Weird. Looking a little weird. No, he should be up in here soon. Welcome to the Raiders. Brian, thank you for the follow.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Oh, hi, Mark. Hello. Thank you so much, bro. I really appreciate it. I hope you're doing well today. Get yourself a slice of pizza down there in the channel, Redeems. We love pizza. And we are being joined by Michael right now. Let me get this music out of here so I can hear you. Hello, Michael. Should be able to hear you. Are you saying anything?
How's it going? Can you hear me?
Okay, this is weird. Say something now. Okay, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hello.
That's what I go for, Brian. Thank you. Can you hear me?
I cannot hear you through the video, but I can hear you through the stream.
Hold on. Troubles. And I'm so sorry for the late start today, dude. It got to me today. Just a little bit of a migraine earlier. How the hell do I join the call? I forgot how to do this all.
Do you remember the password?
I mean, I'm in the room. It's just I don't see the button to join. Slow start, ladies and gents, right, and guests. That's right, Spamuel. Oh.
Do you like my tea mug?
That's a beautiful tea mug. I think it's very thematically appropriate for today.
Thank you.
How are you doing today, Michael? While I figure out, I just struggle over here to do what we tested last week.
Yeah, I'll ramble a little bit while you're figuring things out.
Yeah, could
And then just
you
interrupt me when you're
introduce
ready.
yourself for people who aren't familiar with you? You know, could you just kind of say what you're most well known about? I've introduced you as a game developer, and for people who might not be aware of you or your work, could you talk a little bit about what games you make? And you know what you're known for.
Yeah, sure thing. My name is Michael. I make what am I known for? I'm not really known for much, but basically I do short and small, weird indie games. I most recently released Torso Tennis on Steam, which is a tennis roguelike. Kind of takes place on a grid. It's a fast and hectic kind of auto battler inspired roguelike. And I'm currently working on a game called Forklift Flower Pot, which is a Outer Wilds inspired game that you kind of go around and explore and find out different things during the different seasons that happen in the. I mean, we'll talk more about that game that I'm working on, but yeah. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you, thank you. And I still can't join the room. Still can't join the room. This is really weird. There's no, like, before I saw join room as director, it says enable director's microphone, which it's
Yeah.
not allowing.
Do you want me? What if I
right
what if I
now.
muted my audio on here and then we switched over to Discord for audio?
This is so weird. There was a button before that said join as director. Sorry, this is technical difficulties. Un momento, por favor. Yeah, I am. Not seeing join director.
I see something happening.
Very weird. Are you able to do it like this? You know, listening to my stream? Is the delay a little slow for you, or is it manageable?
It's a little delayed. I think what I would prefer if
man,
we
and
can, if
now
we
I
can jump on
can't
the
hear
Discord
you.
call and then I'll mute the video.
Hold on. What? Oh my god. I broke everything? Did I just break everything? Hold on.
No.
Okay, I can hear you now. I can hear you. Could you repeat yourself? Sorry about that. You said Discord? Okay.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Yeah, let me make sure we got the audio. Okay. All right, so sorry again about all of that. Like I said, you know, I had a migraine. My whole day was kind of messed up earlier. I'm feeling a lot better now. It's just, you know, running a little bit late, you know, kind of being like, oh my God, dude, like what is going on? You know, with things kind of just getting a little bit delayed, you know. So, but There we go. We're good. We're good. And everybody, say that again. We're all set up, baby. Here for all the technical difficulties. Is it even a stream if it's not filled with a few technical difficulties and hiccups here and there? Especially for unorthodox interviews. You ain't wrong. Now, you can't hear... Okay, your audio's not come... Okay, I will just add a audio source. Wow. Okay, can everybody hear? Can everybody hear Michael now? Say, shit, what the hell? What have I done? What have I done? It's supposed to be audio. Why did it do that? Okay, say something now, Michael.
Okay, I'm saying things now.
Okay, can y'all hear Michael now?
Okay, cool. I think they can maybe hear. Sorry for who Riot is as a person.
Thank you, Wookie. Thank you. I'm also sorry, but I don't even know if I can't qualify as a person. I tries, I barely ever succeed. Ain't that true, Cheese? Ain't that the true? All right. It looks like it's working now.
Sounds good.
All right, dude. Sorry for the slow start. As your viewer Browdozer said, it's very much an unorthodox interview, especially with the start today. Appreciate you joining us today and doing a brief introduction. I can words. I can do this. All right. So I just wanted to warm up with a little bit and talk about your origins, right? And how you got into first making games. Could you talk a little bit about when you first started making games and how, like, you got interested in that?
Yeah, so I mean, I had always been interested in game development, but I didn't really think it was something that like mortals could do. I thought the games were bestowed upon us by gods, and I didn't realize it was something you could pursue and learn how to do. But after I graduated from university, I started kind of learning some programming on my own, and then I got hired to teach like summer camps, teaching kids Minecraft modding.
Oh, neat.
So yeah, that was kind of like the start. I was teaching like kids how to make mods, teaching them how to program, and kind of staying one step ahead of them, learning a little bit along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I got hired on to that company to do their online courses as well. So I was moving up the ranks. I was still learning more stuff. And eventually we started making like bigger courses, not just Minecraft modding, like doing Unity game development and stuff like that. So I really got to get paid to learn game development for a few years there, which was really helpful. And after that, I kind of started to experiment with it on my own. I found out about what like game jams are, and I started to participate in some of those. And then kind of over my career, I started taking this creative side more and more seriously and really devoting myself to it.
Neat. I actually worked as a teacher for years, and I can definitely understand. I mean, at one point, I was a new teacher, and I can really relate to the kind of just staying one step ahead of them. I used to work with an artist who would say, "Well, the school kind of wanted me to expand into some courses in this direction with 3D artwork," and he's like, I'm learning that now, so the whole thing for him too was just like, okay, well, I just gotta be learning things ahead of the students to be able to be in a position to teach them. So that's really interesting. And you mentioned Minecraft. Did you grow up with Minecraft? Was that one of your favorite games as a kid?
Not really. I mean, Minecraft wasn't out when I was a kid. I know I look very youthful, but Minecraft I think came out when I was in college. I played it quite a bit. But yeah, it was more like I think that was in like 2013, 2014 when it really started to blow up with the younger generation, and that's when I was starting to teach it.
Nice. What was the first game you actually tried to build? I know you talk about kind of getting into it with modding, and how would you compare, say, a mod project to actually getting into game dev yourself?
Yeah, so I mean, it's like how do I explain this? Like a lot of what I was doing with modding is just copying and pasting code that's already in the base. So you're kind of learning how to read stuff. You're editing
Right.
strings, you're editing images and stuff. You can make more advanced mods if you're like good, which I wasn't really doing too much of that. But to make the jump to kind of making standalone games was a little bit bigger than I realized. But I think like early on, I just watched some tutorials on Unity, like top to bottom, like how to make a game, and I followed by step. And then from there, you start to kind of move into this like project-based learning phase where you're like trying to make stuff. You don't have all the knowledge you need to make that stuff, so you look up individually on like, okay, I can't figure out how to make this collider work. How do I do that? And then you're looking it up, and then you're learning. So that phase of learning took me maybe like I don't know, like a year of that of trying to make all these projects and game jams and um, like not being fully confident in my abilities yet, but just trying to make stuff, kind of failing, making little silly joke games during game jams and stuff. But yeah, I feel like that's an important phase to go through when you're like starting out.
Right. Now, you talked about kind of just copying code that was in the game when you were in the mod scene and everything. Would you describe yourself as programmer first or more design focused?
I think like I don't know. I always consider myself a generalist. Like I've been employed as a designer, as a programmer, never been employed as an artist. Um,
Which is a shame.
and I also really like doing audio. But
You're-
yeah, like
Sorry, continue. Sorry. I really like your artwork, man. It's like so
yeah,
good.
I mean, I don't know if it's something that someone would pay for though. It's definitely like my art style is more inspired by limitations
Right.
and trying to make unique feeling things that aren't necessarily like technically demanding. We can talk. I mean, that's a whole another side story we can talk about
Right.
later. But yeah, I think I kind of came at it more from trying to get the programming because like you can't make a game without like the logic of it functional. So like making sure that all is sound first, and then kind of starting to develop my art and design skills over the years after that.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. When did you first feel comfortable to start releasing your games publicly then? Because it
Yeah, I remember that
started.
feeling like a
Sorry, I was gonna say it started right as more of like a job with teaching and everything, right? And at some point, you made that shift to I'm gonna be a real game dev.
yeah. I mean, that's always kind of in the back of your head, even as you're starting to learn this stuff. I mean, for me, it definitely was. Like I desperately wanted like a career as an artist, like kind of in the back of my head my whole life. But I kind of was like, well, let me just start out doing something practical and learn on the side. And like, okay, now that I've done a bunch of game jams, let me try releasing a mobile game. So in 2019, I did a mobile game for free, and then starting to do like small Steam releases and stuff where it wasn't like, okay, my whole livelihood is counting on this, but let me just go through the process of releasing a few games. So I did a puzzle game in 2020 called The Machine's Garden that I launched, and then in 2022 I launched a game called Tendy Robot Gardener, and those were kind of things that I was working on while I was like employed at companies to try to go through that loop of okay, what does it actually take to do all of this? Like get all the programming, level design, audio, marketing, and promotion towards the end of it. Like how does that go? And making that jump from like, okay, jamming on games and just doing it for fun to starting to take it more seriously. There is a spectrum there, right? Of you don't have to go all out and try to make your big first commercial release, right? It's totally fine to do little commercial releases where you're testing the water, kind of developing your skills as well.
I mean, going back to talking about programming, right? I mean, hello world, right? It's like you start small. You start small, yep. Right? And work your way up. Out of curiosity, what was the name of that first mobile release? Was it on Android, iOS? Was it a free? I don't know if you mentioned if it was a free game or if it was paid. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I had done a jam game, I think 2 years before, called Snail Boat, where it's like a grid-based puzzle game. You're a snail that jumps around on boats, and they get pushed around, kind of like a moving blocks puzzle. Mm-hmm. It was a free game on iOS and Android. I don't think it's up anymore, honestly, because I let the
license
developer program. Yeah, because you have to pay $100 to Apple every year to keep your mobile game up, and like for me, I'm just like I'm not going to continue to invest there because it's just an annoying platform to develop for.
And it's a free game. It's not like you're making your money back necessarily from paying it. You're just paying $100 a year, right, to keep it there.
Keep a museum open. So I say like I could pay $100 to keep my museum of mobile games open, but yeah.
That's fair. It's a shame. Do you have a playable build of it somewhere if anyone was curious about it? Like, recently Edmund McMillan released Mugenics, which was a huge success for an indie game. Really cool game. I personally really like it. But several years back, he released something called The Basement Collection, which before the Mugenics release, we were playing a little bit. And it's a bunch of his older work in a kind of museum format. You talk about, I'm not going to pay $100 a year to keep a museum open. Would you ever consider if, you kind of develop enough momentum as a developer that there is a large interest in your past work about maybe including things like that in playable builds? I know that Landfall. They've got their whole archive, right? And they're also big kind of industry veterans, I guess. Would you consider some sort of archive or museum format for those that are curious about previous work? And I do want to get into Machine Garden and talk a little bit about that, because that is commercially available, and I haven't played it myself yet.
Yeah, I think, so to talk about Snailboat, the jam version is still available, and you can go play it on itch if you're curious. In some ways, I do think it's like, what you're saying about the going back and discovering people's past work, I think it's really valuable. In some ways, I feel like that was back when I was definitely more like minimalist in my game design approach, and so it's a little bit more pure of a of a distillation of a game compared to like now. I really like maximalism in certain senses and aesthetic values and kind of in design sensibilities.
Right.
So I think it would be cool for people to look back at. But yeah, so it is. You can play it on itch. It's a nice game. And I would love for more people in the future.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, there are some things that I'll save for a little bit later in the discussion that I think tie into what I think your philosophy is with game development at large, that something like some sort of archive or museum format might be really applicable. But I do want to talk about Machine Garden. This is kind of your first big release, or I think you mentioned one game before that I'm not sure if I was familiar with. 10D Bot, you said?
Yeah. So Machine's Garden was before Tendy.
Okay.
Machine's Garden was a puzzle game. So I worked on Snailboat with my friend John, and we decided like after that we're like, hey, let's make another puzzle game and release it on Steam. Like I think that would be really fun for both of us. We're kind of at that stage where we wanted to take like game dev maybe a little bit more seriously, And for me, I really wanted to have like a portfolio project so that when I was applying for jobs, like people could see that I took this seriously, like enough to put my game out on Steam. So we started working on that. It's very similar to Snailboat in its design aesthetic. It's a grid-based puzzle game, but it's a hexagonal grid, and you kind of move a hexagon around to try to cover up all the tiles. And there's some unique twists on how that works, and there's a story that goes along with it that John worked on. But I think that was a huge learning process for us, because I mean we started it right after the Jam version of Snailboat, so in 2017, and it took us like 3 years to actually release that game on Steam, because we were both doing other stuff in our lives, and it was hard to really wrangle it together. Like, I mean, we had like 90% of the game done in the first few months, and then that last 10% took us 3 years. So it was definitely a good learning experience.
Well, I had wanted to ask what inspired the idea, but clearly you kind of took inspiration from the game jam, and it was you and your buddy kind of trying to refine ideas and build upon what you had with your previous game jam game and kind of do something more full featured, I guess, right? But what originally brought these ideas? Was there a theme for the game jam that was puzzles or something that you just kind of, came up with on the spot for the game jam? What inspired this puzzle concept you wanted to work with? And what would you describe the biggest challenge making it, like that last 10% that took so long?
Yeah. So why it's a puzzle game and is because Snailboat was a puzzle game, and that's what me and John were comfortable making. We kind of had gone through that in one weekend scope for the game jam, right? We're like, okay, you make mechanics, and then you make levels kind of around the mechanics and teaching them, and like there's unique things to discover about them. You want to highlight that and have the players discover that, right? And so that's what we were familiar with. And so John at that time also had like this idea, kind of like the more story or narrative idea for Machine's Garden, where it's like a forgotten military supercomputer that wakes up after many years, and it's like in this future where there's just like a non-technical society kind of living like in the fallout of a great war, kind of living around this machine and like treating it like it's just another creature in the forest, right? And so that was kind of like the story concept that John wanted to build a puzzle game around. And so those were the kind of the core ideas that got us started. So you like do the puzzles, and then there's like a little journal entry that you read that kind of gives you some insight into the story aspect of it. And I think like what took us so long with it was like we both had major stuff coming up in our lives, and it's really difficult when you are making creative stuff. You're kind of exposing a vulnerable part of yourself to the world. So both on the like final pieces of like the game design, we kind of like waffled around on some of it, and then also on like the narrative, I know John really struggled with that, kind of tying it all together and feeling confident in it. Right. I think where we landed with the narrative is really nice. And yeah.
It sounds thematically really cool, just the way that you describe it and everything. And even if you guys struggled with that, it seems like for such an early release that it was, you guys did exceptionally well, considering that you were kind of learning on the fly as you did all of this.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the game. I think it holds up really well for what it is. And like towards the end of development, I started learning so much more about like marketing and promotion of games. Like, because we were like, okay, we have to launch this. Like, how do we tell people about this now? Like, I had no idea how any of that stuff worked, and I had to kind of wrap my head around it and try to figure out how to do it at the end of that process. And then I kind of had learned, oh, well, like I need to start this kind of thinking earlier for the next projects.
Right. So that kind of leads into my next question, in what would you do differently if you made it today, right? Because you're describing, oh, I learned about marketing and everything, and maybe you would market it differently. Do you think you would design things differently in the game today? Maybe, adjust balance or theme or anything like that? Because I like the theme, as I said. I think you kind of did something really special and fun, and there's honestly not enough kind of set in that theme. It almost kind of reminds me of Machinarium or something, the vibe that you get. Yeah. So what would you...
Yeah, I think like... Yeah, I can answer that question because I think I know where you're going with it. Sorry to cut you off. But yeah, I think like from a like marketing perspective, thinking about what the game is, I don't think it communicates that very well when you look at like the game art or the world. Like I think there would need to be some sort of like visual anchor or character to kind of ground like the story part of the game. I know that's kind of like a weird thing to say, but I think like a character that is on the title art or something that kind of shows that it's like a post-apocalyptic kind of setting.
Right.
And then like, yeah, how I would design the game differently. I mean, me and John had this argument throughout development. Like we were both like 50-50 on the game. And so we didn't really have like a clear delineation of who's the project lead, but it was like 50-50. But then I think John was kind of like the tiebreaker since it was his kind of baby. So we disagreed about whether after you completed each puzzle, if you should force pop up the little story element that comes up, or show that a story element was there and then hide it in a UI interface that people go and click on to discover the story if they want. And so that, I mean, we would probably revisit that conversation now. I still feel pretty strongly that when you hit people with a wall of text that they didn't ask for, it's like, I mean, not that the story elements were long, they were pretty short and like poem-like mostly.
Right.
But I think like we were kind of afraid that people wouldn't engage with that part of the game, and that was kind of like the whole point for both of us. Like I agree that it was kind of the whole point. So that was a hard decision to make, and we'd probably revisit that.
Yeah, I actually watched a video essay a while back that was talking about some things that I personally feel, at least at certain periods of my life, strongly, and that's, I mean, I'd argue that, let's see, like BioShock kind of popularized the audio log in games, right? But like a lot of games, like say the Horizon games are from Software, like any of the Souls games are big on lore exposition and item descriptions, right? Many games might have large narrative dumps, and people just sometimes skip over that. They're not in a headspace where like, I just want to play a game, right? And it's like, can you implement it in such a way that this large text exposition dump, is something that's going to be palatable for the player or not? And I can understand, you and your friend John kind of having a back and forth, like how are we going to, I guess, gracefully implement that, right? And even today, if you were to say start making this game today, it still might be a difficult design choice for you to tackle. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, and there's like a whole lot that, I mean, originally we had like cutscenes of people coming in and walking in and talking to the computer and then walking out and stuff, and that was just kind of, we opted for a more minimal approach of like just the text, because I felt like that was hard to kind of wrangle all that together, like with dialogue. And then there was also another part of the game that I worked on that, because I felt like the puzzles like weren't enough. Like I worked on a whole like village sim part of it where like after you completed the puzzles, you got like a certain number of resources that you could go then like apply to your village sim. But then like that was like the last year of the game. And I was kind of like, I don't know. I felt like I wanted to make it more, and then we decided to cut that. Probably like very smart. I think the game's a lot more focused because of that. But
I mean,
think if we visited it again, I would probably try to figure out some way to put the village sim in there because I was pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, you heard me just go ooh, because I love SimCity, Civilization, not that Civilization, but the expanding your cities and build, SimCity actually designing a city, or even something like that. That concept made me think of Cult of the Lamb, right? Where you have this whole thing, right, with a gameplay loop that is explicitly one thing, where it is a roguelike, right? But then you're going back and doing these little village management bits in between your runs and something. That's something that I really personally like.
Yeah, same.
I think it could be a cool implementation, maybe a sequel at some point if you decided to revisit it as something. Or are you keen on maybe going back and doing updates to a game? Because sometimes you'll see a game. Big fan here of Running with Scissors. They just announced Flesh and Wire. Praise be to the postal dude, even though probably hunting that dude down, it looks like. But anyway, that's a very crass, juvenile, teenage angst passion of mine. We don't need to get too much into that. My point is that those devs, right, they updated Postal 1 and 2 for decades after release, with Postal 2 getting a DLC 20 years after their initial game's release, right, and adding a huge component to the game, controller updates, an entire new campaign. How do you feel about that? Do you think a game should be kind of released in a feature complete version? You know, how that compares to, say, games being released in early access and being updated over time, live service, things like that.
Yeah. I think if my game was a massive hit, I would consider updating it like that. Like if I made myself enough to pay for like whatever 10 years of my life because it blew up, then I would go back and give stuff back for free. But like in the current state where my game's kind of hit like a small audience and they're excited and they love it as it is, I think what I would go for is more of like a spiritual successor type thing,
right?
Where it has elements of the first thing, but evolves it in a certain way where it's not necessarily a direct sequel, but pulls on my whatever design and art or narrative inspirations for the first game were.
Right.
And I have kind of started doing that with Forklift Flower Pot as well. So.
Yeah. That definitely makes sense. I like the concept of, you know, a spiritual successor. Also, everybody, you heard him. Go buy Machine Garden. Let's go. Everybody go buy Machine Garden so we can get him working on a sequel. Let's go. So your games, I would personally describe them as pretty experimental, you know, in the grand scheme of things. Is that intentional, or is it just kind of like not a thought of yours? You just start working on it and it comes out that way, or do you intentionally try to do more unique experimental concepts?
Yeah, I don't feel like I can motivate myself to work on something if it's not trying to do something unique or trying to say something. Like for me, it's like even if I tried to make something that is maybe more marketable or more like of a thing that's more of a sure hit that it'll find an audience, like I think I wouldn't be able to finish that sort of game. Like I think it has to be something different for me to be motivated to work on it, I think.
Sure, I can understand that. Out of curiosity, as a potentially autistic individual and definitely ADHD, are you neurodivergent in any capacity? I ask because for me, you know, novelty, like exploring new concepts in something, is a big motivator for me, right? You know, it's part of why I wanted to explore podcast formats as a live stream medium and do something like this. You know, I constantly want to be pushing in new directions because that's what motivates me. I'm curious if that's something for you, or it's just, you know, kind of just who you've always been, or what?
Yeah, definitely a little neurospicy. You know, I struggled with attention issues throughout my childhood a lot. And I think like, yeah, in my creative life, I've jumped around to so many different things. I think like I'm similar to what you were explaining, where like, you know, I I'll get really into one thing for a month and then jump over to another thing, and I'm really excited about that for a month. And I think that's been cool with game development because there's so many facets to it, like with
Right.
audio, design, art. Like I
mentioned marketing too.
Yeah, and then it's. I think that one of the hardest things for me to learn with this was how to dedicate to myself to a project for like a time longer than a few months. That's been a challenge, but now like I've come to really like that. But yeah, getting back to the core of the question here, yeah, I definitely have had to learn how to sit my butt in a chair. Like, I used to take medication for ADHD, but now I'm kind of like trying to figure out how to do it with lifestyle stuff where I don't know, just being good with my schedule, being good with like my routines and everything. So that's been a huge help.
Right. I get that, dude. I was on and off medication, and I also am trying to do routine, which obviously didn't work out so great today with us getting a late start to this and stuff. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Day by day, we try to do a little bit better, and so I'm sure that sometimes that works well for you. And being unmedicated, I would argue, helps a lot with the creative side of things. You have more ideas. Actually working on the ideas is definitely making progress and getting momentum more challenging, but concepts and stuff come to me more naturally, almost too naturally. And I would imagine it's similar to you. ADHD medication, very stifling in that regard.
Yeah, I felt like a lot of the side effects with it just kind of like I couldn't really handle long term. Like, yeah. So I definitely have been enjoying. I mean, it's been a while since I've been off of them, but the the lifestyle stuff, really honing in on making sure I like probably the biggest thing is exercise for me. Like if I don't exercise for a day or two, like I start to like feel mentally not well.
Yeah.
So that's been a big thing.
I'm feeling mentally not well as soon as we started. I don't know how much into music you are, and this may be a bit older for you and niche, but as soon as we said ADHD medication, I had Fela Kuti start playing in my head the song Zombie, and it makes me feel like a zombie, and that song's now playing in my head. But some of the things you just said kind of, and I think this, I'm a little curious, right? I wanted to ask, do you prefer shipping smaller projects instead of big, long ones? And you mentioned it being difficult to kind of motivate yourself to stick with something longer than a few months at a time, right? And the new game that you were working on is probably the largest scope of any of the games that you've put out so far, right? Yeah. So I'm curious how you feel about smaller versus larger projects.
Yeah, I think like especially if you're first starting out, like the most common advice you'll hear is like do as small of a project as you can do, like copy Pong, copy Breakout, right? Mm-hmm. Those sorts of things, that's great for learning too. But as you progress, there's no one right way to do like creative work. Like if you're the kind of person where long projects, like that's what motivates you want to work on something for 5 years, like that can pay off. But yeah, I think generally it's safer to make a lot of smaller bets and learn along the way because you get feedback every step of the way. Like if you're working on a game for 5 years and it comes out, it's not a very good feedback cycle. So I do prefer the smaller games for sure because you get to experiment with something, you get it out the door, and then you can jump on and do something new. But yeah, sometimes to complete something to the level that you originally imagined it or something close to that, it does take time. Yeah, and Forklift Flower Pot has been kind of like that for me where I started on it with a lot of ambition. I've kind of, taken a break on it to make torso tennis, and then I've come back to it now, and I'm feeling more refreshed and more like I have I actually can see the end of this project now.
Cool.
Whereas before I had no idea how long it was going to take me.
Yeah, McMillan said something in leading up to the release of Mugenics, which, that was a particularly long development with, with complications with IP ownership and it being canceled and gaining IP, right? But he said it was something that he worked on for so long that he has his feelings on it. But he's like, I've been in this world for so long working on this that I don't even know. It's hard to step back and kind of think about how the world is going to perceive it when I put it out there and everything. And working on Forklift Flower Pot might be a similar thing to you describing, not getting that kind of feedback and everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think like it's also weird too because it's something like I had the idea for this. I mean, I've been trying to make this game for a while. I think I originally wanted my game Tendy to be how this is, like where it's more open worldy exploration inspired by Outer Wilds, and then that I kind of had to wrangle back in. And this one, I really allowed it to be that full game because I thought I was kind of ready for it. In some ways I was, in other ways I wasn't, and so like. That's why taking the break to work on Torso Tennis, I think, was extremely valuable for me. I think I learned a lot during that development cycle that I'm feeling like, even though coming back to this game now feels like, oh, like who was I when I started this, right? But I feel like I have like what it takes to actually wrap this up now.
Cool. Where do most of your ideas come from then?
It's hard to know where they come from. I mean, it's like
the cosmos.
You know what I mean, it's like where does the wind come from, right? Yeah, I think I don't know.
We described the Outer Wilds, right?
Yeah, I guess a lot of times a game will inspire me, right? And then I'll think about just little ideas of things that could be fun sometimes, or like the core of a concept. Like for me, I think with Forklift Flower Pot, it was the season changing mechanic that was kind of the core of the idea. It was Outer Wilds, and then but instead of all of the gadgets you have in Outer Wilds to explore, it's like you change the seasons. And I'm a big fan of Zelda Oracle of Seasons. I played that on my Game Boy.
So good.
Several times through, right? So that was something that was kind of in the back of my head always. But in a more fantastical setting with seasons that are not like Earth analogs. And kind of, yeah, I think it just kind of grew from there. It's like, oh, what kind of things do you do in this world? Oh, you pick up plants and you drive around. And so that kind of made me converge on what the main character and title of the game is.
Right. And I got one more question on your design philosophy and kind of relating to a few of the things that you've said about design and art and things like that. And that's, do constraints help creativity?
Yeah, of course. I think for sure. Yeah, if you have like a set guideline, and I think that's why game jams are really fun too, because you have a constraint of time and a lot of time theme as well. And those are some of the most creatively fulfilling things you can do, is just like a short like game jam where you're like really cranking on a theme and it's like constrained and you kind of know like here's my box to color in or whatever. Like when the canvas is infinite, like you have nowhere to start. Like it just becomes impossible.
100%.
And I think that's why the large scope games can be dangerous. Because of that, and it's just going to take more time.
I mean, there's bloat and overloading of features and stuff. If you've got a large team and people start working on this and that and snowball right into something that's, the constraints really, I agree. That's very cool. Yeah. All right, let's talk a little bit about Torso Tennis.
Yeah.
Which is, we're gonna briefly play on stream today, and I do know you've got a little bit of a time constraint, so if we have to, I may be playing, after you leave. Hopefully we can fit it in, but we'll see. Let's talk a little bit about it though. Where did the idea, right? I would describe it as a roguelike, competitive puzzle adjacent game, maybe, right? Like it's got that grid system that you described from previous games you worked on and stuff. It's pretty interesting. Where did the idea come from? Would you just describe it as building upon your previous games? Was it a random thought that you had and just was like, this'll be quirky and fun? Where did it come from?
Yeah, so I was working on Forklift Flower Pot. I was kind of stuck, and I kept having this idea about like toys that were playing sports together. And when you beat the other sports team, you get to like rip off their limbs and put it in the socket of where your arm is.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like the thing I couldn't stop thinking about. And like I was tempted, and I was like, oh, I can't work on this until I'm done, because a lot of the times like I won't. That's what drives me to finish a project is like, oh, I know I get to start on the next thing once I'm done with this.
Right.
But in this case, I was like, well, let me just make this game really quick and try to do it in the smallest scope of that idea that I can implement. And so I'm like, okay, instead of doing a big team sport like I originally envisioned, let's do a 1v1 sport. What's a 1v1 sport? Oh, tennis, like net sports are a good thing for that. And then so that's how I came up with the tennis thing. And then like, what's the base unit of the toy when you're putting all the limbs on? Oh, it's the torso, so it's just torsos playing tennis. And the grid-based thing, like, I'm not exactly sure why I gravitated towards that instead of like a more traditional like action style gameplay. I had like a mini game in Forklift Flower Pot before that was on a grid, and kind of movement was sort of like that, and I liked it. I liked the way it felt to move around on the grid like that. So I think that kind of the feeling of that was in my head. And also then that meant that I could do everything based on like real like data in the game of like what tile you're on, rather than using colliders and trying to figure out, oh, did this thing collide with that thing? It's like, no, it's all like the logic of the game is all built into the grid on what space you're in and the timings of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like maybe that would make things simpler, or at least interesting. So that was kind of the core of the idea, and I had started it during Global Game Jam over 1 week to try to like make a prototype. And I mean, we can talk more about it later. But is there any follow-up questions you want to ask to the core idea?
Maybe what was the hardest mechanic to kind of lock in and get right?
I think, well, the cheese set of limbs took me so long, and actually after the game came out, I patched it with a new way that it worked. But yeah, I think like that first week that I made it for Global Game Jam, the game actually, it wasn't really fun at all. It was like goofy, and it was very buggy. It was not a very fun experience unless you were just there for the vibes. And so I felt like really like I wanted to work on it more. Like that didn't scratch the itch for me of like, I couldn't just do this game jam and then set this idea down. Like, okay, I have to develop this further. Not because there was any feedback on it that made me feel like it was going to be worth that time invested, but just because I hadn't scratched the itch of what I wanted the game to be. So I kept developing more of the limb types, the sets of them, because there's like the critters that can shoot tennis balls on the court. There's the dinosaur limbs, which give you shells that protect your side of the court. There's all sorts of other things that during this process of development, I was playtesting all the time, because with roguelikes, it's so fun to develop roguelikes, by the way. Like I think like you can have a playable version so early, and then it's just like the iteration process is so fun of like you play test, you see what's good, what's not, you come up with a new idea for a set of items, and you can add that to the limb, you can work on you can add that to the game, you can work on synergies. Like it was truly a joyous development process.
You mentioned bugs, right? The initial game jam thing. Because I know we're gonna play it. We can talk more about torso tennis in a bit when we bring it up. But what was one of the funniest bugs that you encountered?
I mean, they weren't like the funny kind of bugs. It was just like the frustrating thing where like the timing of the tennis balls would be off, and they would like fly off the court, and they would somehow be on a grid space that doesn't exist, and then like you would get locked into place, so the game would freeze, like stuff like that.
Oh, that sounds frustrating.
The logic was a little off, and I had to find where that was. But yeah, so I think the grid-based thing might have actually been over time like harder than would have been just to set up colliders. But I don't know.
Interesting. All right, we've talked a little bit about it, but you're working on Forklift Flower Pot currently, and inspired by probably one of my top 3 of all time, Outer Wilds. Absolutely love that game. Can you tell us a little bit about Forklift Flower Pot?
Yeah, so you play as a forklift flower pot. You drive around this fantastic archipelago. It's kind of like a fantasy setting where you can change between 3 seasons in the world. There's like a windy season where there's like gusts of wind blowing all over the place. There's a wet season where it's like raining and there's a big deluge. And then there's a harvest season where things kind of fruit or blossom. And so you kind of have to discover what different plants are doing during those different seasons in order to stop an annual flood that's happening. That's kind of being devastating to the ecosystem. So it's kind of that core mystery and not exactly a time loop, but something similar where the flood will happen and then you will have to reset. And you kind of will go explore the different islands looking for clues to how to get to certain places, to learn more information, to figure out how to solve the greater mystery of the whole thing.
Interesting. It sounds pretty neat. Talking about 3 seasons, mentioning Oracle of Seasons, right? And roguelike development. Would you say scope creep is a big hurdle to overcome? Did you have more seasons in mind? Things like that? Because I know Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages was originally intended to be 3 games. It was going to be or I think Oracle of Secrets or Time was supposed to be the 3rd one, and they had to scale it back, right? Majora's Mask supposed to be a week, scaled it back to 3 days, right? And roguelikes, I'm sure you have ideas and ideas and ideas, and you're like, I got it. This is never gonna come out if I keep putting in it. I'm curious, did you want more seasons? Did you lock into 3 seasons early on? Or what? Is scope creep a big thing that you've had to deal with this project?
Yeah, I locked into the 3 seasons pretty early. I felt like that was the right amount for this style of puzzle. Like too many and it would start to get you get a little lost in the weeds.
Yeah.
And but that doesn't mean that I didn't struggle with the scope creep, because I think the problem for me was mini games. I thought in the beginning, I'm going to put so many mini games in here because it's just going to be this wild world where everyone wants to play different games with you. So there was a deck building card game that I had in there.
Wow.
That actually was in the demo that I had out for a while, that I had to cut from the scope of the game. And then there was a little race segment where you would race people around and that sort of stuff where I was just like, oh, let's throw this in for the heck of it. I got very carried away with that early in development. And I think what the approach I've kind of got now is I'm going to finish the game and it's going to be playable from start to finish before I add any mini games to it.
Yeah, I sure hope so.
There's a chance the deck building card game will be buried somewhere deep in the game because it's functionally there and it's fine. It's a little the tutorial and the onboarding of it is a little frustrating, but I think I could theoretically hide it in the game for someone that wants to find it, but I can't. I have to be a little bit more responsible with how I approach this if I want to respect my time, and so I have to now approach it with this attitude of I see what the scope of the game is to kind of deliver on the original concept of the Outer Wilds mystery and the season changing and the different islands, and get that basic curiosity driven exploration fully fleshed out in the game first before then going and adding all this side content.
Right. There's also there's some games out there, right, that do this, add many features, right, into the game that sometimes it works and it's the sum of all of its parts and everything, but sometimes with these ambitious games that try to add many things, it kind of feels like oh, I can see that, oh, they got inspiration from Magic the Gathering, or they got, and they wanted to put this in here, but it's a less polished version of that's detracting from the larger experience. So kind of finding a balance with that has got to be a little bit difficult. How far?
Yeah, I think that. So to follow up on you real quick there, I think the reason why I thought I could get away with this, I mean, usually when studios do this game within a game, that's like a large studio. There's many people working on it.
Yeah, right.
I had played Inscription like maybe a few months before I started working on this, and so I thought like, oh, like Daniel Mullins is able to do this in all his games. Right. There's like these little side things, and they're just like jammed full of all these like.
Did you play the hex?
Things to discover and new games to play, right? But that's because Daniel Mullins is like superhuman. Like that's not because that is a recreatable thing.
Right.
So I think I had a little hubris. Like I thought I was on that level, and I don't think I'm quite there yet.
Yeah, he also has been doing it for maybe a few years longer than you. And I do think he might be superhuman with the stuff he does with his ARGs and the way all the games are linked. And and he has hit it, like he somehow is like, I'll also make the time to fucking just make a little mini game that I'm gonna release under a pseudonym that also ties into the game and is a larger ARG going on with the actual conclusion of the story, if you care to dig into it, which people always do with his games, because he's made it big enough as a developer to have, not only, the time and energy and funds to be able to work on these kind of things, which is a big part of it, I think, for indie game devs, right? But also to have a player base that will care about and work on something, say, of the scope of an ARG, right? If you've got 10 people playing your game, an ARG doesn't necessarily seem like a realistic goal to be putting into your game.
Yeah, I agree. I would. It's not something I would recommend to any developer, basically, before they know that they have a large audience that's already looking for that kind of thing.
How far along is Forklift Flower Pot into development? Do you have a release window in mind?
Yeah, I have something. I have the time I would like to release the game, but I'm not gonna release it unless it's like feeling like it's done. Like I'm currently working towards an alpha build of the full game. I have a vertical slice, which I had out as the demo earlier, which is like a polished version of a small bit of the game. So one of the islands is kind of at that level, and there's 3 more islands which are in various states of prototype status. So I'm trying to get them all to an alpha level, which for me means they're playable from start to finish. They have all the features that need to be there, but maybe some art is missing. Maybe some of the content is kind of like placeholder or sketchy kind of dialogue that's just not fully fleshed out. But it's theoretically playable. So I'm pretty close to that. I think I'll hit that in the next couple weeks here. And then we'll go into an art pass on the game and an audio pass, and then playtesting. Hopefully, I know Outer Wilds went through so much playtesting.
Yeah.
And so I think that's going to be where the scope or like the development schedule of this game really has room to expand, is if I do playtesting and then it's clear I have to change something big or I have to really rework it. I have to figure out what sort of balance I'm going to strike there.
Fair. I think that's smart, though. The way that you're going about it seems good. Like for the end product, it's going to be better for your brand and also deliver a better product for the consumer. So that's great. I wanted to talk a little bit about tools and game engines. What are you developing the game in? Is it Unity, Unreal, Godot? And how do you feel about things With you being so invested in game jams and things like that, how do you feel about something like Pico 8?
Yeah, Pico 8 is so cool. I love the fantasy console stuff. I love the modern renaissance of retro game development. Like there are people making indie retro games. I think that's really cool. But yeah, I'm a Unity boy. I learned Unity 10 years ago. Um, so I've been developing games in it for a long time. I'm very comfortable in it. I worked at Unity on the education team there for a few
Neat.
years, which was yeah. So that was cool experience. I got to learn more while I worked there, and so I'm very comfortable in the engine, right? And yeah, I basically would recommend people just go with if they're already comfortable with an engine, like keep going with that. Like I don't think yeah, with the Unity licensing fee stuff, like sure, like so the trust is shaken a little bit there, but like ultimately I'm still going to be able to develop and release games a little faster. Like I get that Mega Crit has enough budget where they can switch their game over to Godot, right? But I'm not really like for me, if I was to switch Forklift Flower Pot to Godot, it would take me another like year, and like I don't really
Yeah.
think I have that in me.
With, with Unity in particular, with you working there previously and things like that, with the education around that system and stuff, Unity was definitely giving Unreal a run for its money for a couple of years there. I would argue that the current CEO kind of fucked up that momentum a little bit. Would you agree or disagree?
The current one, I don't really know too much about what's been going on since John Riccatello left, but yeah, I think like yeah, it's tough to know where they're headed right now. Um, but I do think that they have to prove it back to earn the indies. I think right now they're kind of losing a lot of trust with indies, and Godot is looking like a better and better option for
It
them.
is. It is.
For indie developers specifically. I think the only reason, like now when people are starting out, I think Godot is easier to learn. I taught a summer class in Godot a few summers ago, and I felt like that was way easier than teaching Unity. Um, Even though like I know that Unity more, and I still would start new projects in Unity because it's like I just know it so well. But
Right.
um, the only reason I tell people not to do Godot is like if you're looking for a job in the industry, like Unreal and Unity are going to be where most of the jobs are
Industry standards.
in both gaming and non-gaming sectors. They use Unreal and Unity for like 3D visualization and stuff like that. Whereas Godot, like maybe you'll find a job at an indie studio, but it's not going to be something where there's as much out there for that. So that is a consideration. And then the console porting aspect of Godot is a little bit harder as well. But yeah.
Cool. And going back to Pico 8, for those of you that are unaware, Pico 8's a fantasy console, right? And it has, like we talked about earlier, do constraints benefit games? It has a lot of constraints, right? And it is, in some capacities, maybe a little bit easier to develop for. I personally have been contemplating if I can, manage my life and do things like a big boy. I kind of wanted to dabble a little bit with Pico 8 myself. Do you think that it is a good system for maybe game jams or prototyping things, or would something like Game Maker be better? And would you ever build a game in something like Pico 8 yourself, or have you?
Yeah, I've played around with Pico 8. I think it's really cool. I think what you were talking about earlier with the constraints making creativity easier is like so true with Pico 8 because you're very limited with what you can make, but that's not like an inhibitor. That's like a helpful thing. Like you know what the constraints are, so you kind of it's easier for you to just jump in and start making stuff. And I probably if I was in that game jam phase of my life still where I was just dabbling and kind of doing it for fun, then absolutely I would be jumping into Pico 8. I would be doing whatever engine picks my like whatever I'm feeling this week. If I want to make a Sega Genesis game, like I'll jump in and use some of those tools and try to figure that out. Right. I think like I've kind of lost something in the phase of my kind of creative life that I'm at now, where I'm so focused now on things that are going to further my career that I'm not taking as much time to jump into tools like that. But yeah, I think it's so cool, and I love seeing all the projects and stuff that come out of it. I mean, yeah, there's plenty of examples of Celeste being the biggest.
Yeah, that's what I was about to mention. You're reading my mind, man. Yeah.
So professionals use it to play around and come up with ideas, and they're able to make stuff out of that, right? So.
Yeah, I've been following Maddie since, back when Maddie was Matt. Matt makes games, Towerfall, one of my favorites, dozens of hours, just couch co-op, couch versus, and Towerfall. And then Celeste having such tight, refined gameplay, right? And I think part of that comes from Pico 8, just those constraints and refining that. And it's really neat. And then also tying into, the personal nature of what Maddie was going through in life and kind of telling this broader narrative thing. It's really something special and unique that you don't often see as refined and polished as that. And part of that, I personally believe, may come from, starting with those kinds of constraints, and allowing.
Yeah, and from what I know, she was very deep in the Super Mario World ROM hacking community too for many years, with just develop that's talk about constraints. That's you're ROM hacking a game, right? And so you're building levels for an existing game. That's a definite constraint, and just building the skills of how platformers work. And it definitely shows with how Towerfall plays, and the feeling of playing that game and the feeling of playing Celeste are just incredible.
Really, really, very, very tight, very tight. Very cool stuff. And again, I want to reiterate, I don't think that if it hadn't had such a tight design constraint, that she would have been able to give us this broader overarching story and everything that kind of gives into her personal journey and everything that I think is relatable for a lot of fans of Celeste without being able to, that, because having that kind of design allowed for avoiding excess in scope creep, right? And to refine narrative and things like that. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. There's a couple of things before we get into gameplay I wanted to touch on real quick. If you're comfortable with talking about where you live, you are in the U.S., right? And I'm curious if you think if you want to talk about where you live, if living in a city or doing remote work, or where you're at, or you think it'd be better to be somewhere like L.A. or New York, it influences the ability to work in the industry and the dev community surrounding this kind of work.
Yeah, I think if I were to really game the situation, I think the play would be live somewhere big for a few years in LA or New York, get a job and make lots of connections while you're out there. And then if you're trying to do the indie thing, go move somewhere with a low cost of living and live there, right? Because ultimately, I feel like you need some connections to kind of be able to develop your feedback network, develop your trusted kind of advice people. I think wherever you are, you should, if you're in a creative field, you should seek out a creative community of people that do similar stuff to you, or at least have a similar kind of goal with trying to develop themselves creatively, right? And that's not just going to further you as a creative person, that's going to help your life be better. I'm very lucky where I live to be a part of a very vibrant game development community, and that is something where it both makes my games better and it makes my life better by just kind of being around awesome people and
Cool.
inspiring each other all the time.
I do want to touch on the vibrant game community, but before that, would you say remote work is basically the standard now, or working in person, either in a co-working space or, getting an office for a small team or something, what would you describe the standard for working in the indie game dev industry would be?
Yeah, I'd say indie, the standard is probably more towards remote now, but like the truth is there's really no standard. Like different studios are going to have different practices.
Right.
For me, like I've worked remote. Like I was working remote before the pandemic when I was at Unity, and after with the game studio being a designer remote, I feel like doing creative work remotely is very tough. I like to be in the same room with people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if I were to start growing my team or work with a team again, it would have to have some kind of in-person component. Like it couldn't be fully remote, unless it's just like a dream come true or something. Then I could probably make it work. But
sorry to cut you off. Continue.
Yeah, I think the remote is very nice for a lot of reasons, but in person also is for creative work very, very good for just kind of the ad hoc kind of collaboration and thoughts, and taking a walk with people and just coming up with ideas and stuff just happen way better when you're in person.
Right, but that might also be a little bit of an individual thing, right? So it might vary from person to person, right? You might be a little bit more antisocial, or and work better by yourself, right? Or you might be the kind of person that does enjoy, like you described, going on a walk or something. So, and in an industry like this, you kind of have the freedom to kind of define that a little bit more yourself, right?
Yeah, I think like there are times when I do want to just sit in a room by myself and program a system or whatever, right? Because that's not the kind of work that really is like an office environment really helps me lock in to do that. Like sometimes I just need to be in a room with the doors closed, right? But yeah, overall, for me personally, I do feel like the in person is helpful.
Nice. Now, you mentioned a vibrant game community. You've talked about game jams. This is the last thing I really wanted to touch on before getting into at least a little bit of some gameplay before you need to go. And I might stick around because I know you got stuff to do today to just play a bit more on stream before we wrap up today. But correct me if I'm wrong, based on what I looked up online, it looks like you founded a nonprofit called Triangle Interactive Arts Collective. Yeah.
That is true.
Nice.
You've done your research, yeah.
I try to do my research. Like Cheese said at the beginning of stream, he tries, he sure tries, and he barely ever succeeds. But I sure try. Could you tell me a little bit about that and what it's been like running a nonprofit? And tell me more about what Triangle Interactive Arts Collective is and does.
Yeah, so about 5 years ago, when the vaccines were starting to come out and we were starting to get out in person again after the pandemic, we really wanted to start hosting more game developments kind of events where I'm at in North Carolina. And so, like, we just kind of started hosting events. We started hosting kind of events where we would hang out and co-work together. And we started hosting little playtest events, started going to conventions and sharing booth space and just kind of pretending like we were a legit organization. And we had been inspired by groups like Glitch City LA and Gumbo in New York City, where they have a co-working space specifically for game devs, and they have events, and it's like
that's dope.
All these cool games come out of them, like in LA, like Hyperlight Drifter and
Heart Collective or what? Heart Machine.
Heart Machine, it came out of there, and then Donut County came out of yeah, so very cool games. And then New York City, the Gumbo Collective was very inspiring to us too, where they were all going to PAX together and showing their games together, and that was like I saw that they had that, and I wanted it. So, and I didn't want to move to New York City or LA because where I live is nice. And so, not that those places aren't nice. I'm just saying. So we just started hosting events and kind of had that end goal in mind. And over the years, the group just kept growing like crazy. We opened our own co-working space like 2.5 years ago, and that's been going well. And yeah, so we have a nonprofit entity that we officially run, and we have like board meetings and stuff. But yeah, we just keep the group running. It's all very community based. People just support and show up with their games and stuff, and we play test a lot, and we yeah,
Good.
it's good.
It's good for that feedback you said, especially with people that are kind of in the know, like understand the behind the scenes and stuff for sharing information, which kind of, thank you, we got a new follower, let's go. That kind of answers, I wanted to ask why start it. That answers a lot of it. Would you describe, I mean, who is it for? Is it for new people getting into the industry? Is it for veterans? Is it for anybody who's interested?
Yeah, that's a good question. I definitely feel like we focus the group on kind of newer people that to try to show them that game development can be a fun hobby, or like, you can just be involved with it the same way that maybe you appreciate music and you want to play your instrument sometimes with people, and there's also professional musicians in the group that will give you feedback if you want that to start moving towards being more of a professional. But yeah, it's definitely what's up, Kirk. That's Kirk co-founded Triangle Interactive with me. For others, there's
perfect timing, Kirk.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I forgot where I was going with that, but yeah, it's for professionals that want to be involved in a community where they can give back or get feedback on their own stuff. It's for new people that want to learn more. It's for anyone that's going to approach it with a, if they, just be a good person and hang out and be friendly to people you're and hang out.
Does it have space for a bumbling cat that tries to be good, but I'm not a person, so I don't fit the criteria of good person?
Yeah, I think you do have to be a person. I mean,
damn it! I knew it. I'm never gonna get into the industry, even when I start my Pico 8 journey.
Well, okay. Well, Kirk says we have space for cats. So
thanks, dude. I love belly rubs, and I can sit in the corner. Let's see if I actually ever get on my get back to my game dev journey. I did study a bit when I was younger. Unreal. I took some courses, and I worked with 3ds Max. And I kind of want to, like, talking about the scope creep and stuff, scale back with something like Pico 8. That's what's got my interest. Yeah. And I do think that you and Kirk, bless you, Kirk. You know it, Kirk. We can make some moves. Yes. But with the things that we talked about with scope creep and everything, I think scaling back, getting into it, and then having a community, really important. Part of what I do here with Pulse the Pixels, I need to kind of be involved with people. You can do so much more with people, and you can not just produce more, but learn from each other, and it really helps. So I'll definitely be linking for people that are interested, information on Triangle Interactive Arts Collective, because I'm sure, there are people not just with the ADHD interest in game development like I have, where it's a hyperfixation, but that are further along on their journey that would be interested in doing something with people like that. So you being able to do that is, I think, you and Kirk, shout out to you guys for doing something to build a foundation for people to come together and do things together is really beautiful. Admirable, respectable, all the good adjectives.
Yeah, I mean, I I needed something like this in my life, so I'm glad we were able to make it happen. Because I was feeling like, I only knew like a few people in town that did this sort of thing, despite there being a big game dev presence actually where we're at, North Carolina. So I knew there were more people that would come out of the woodwork and want to participate in this kind of thing. We just had to kind of stand out there and wave the flag to kind of get people out and come into events and stuff. And yeah, it's really grown over the years. And I will say, actually, I wanted to refute your point about people with ADHD hyperfixations on Pico 8 for like a month. They're definitely welcome to still show up, and like that's like our bread and butter, baby. Like people that just want to dip in for a game jam and try something out, So yeah.
And sorry if you heard a little bit of meowing there. Ms. Pill just let Momo into the office. I hope it wasn't too distracting. She's just over here screaming her head off. You was the bread and butter, Lauren. You was the bread and butter. But yeah, that's my little rescue, meow meow. Momo doesn't have any questions other than where's my food. But I know you said you had time until about 1. I wanted to hop into torso tennis a bit. If you need to get going and can't really answer any other questions, I understand that. But if you had a few minutes to hop in and kind of just discuss a little, that would be cool.
Yeah, I'm good.
Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Let's get over to the game room. All right. And the getting started late today. I got a 4:3 aspect ratio. We gotta get this TV out of here. And get your little TV up in here. Here you go. There. Let me see. Nice. You should be there. Might not. There you are. Hell yeah. And let's launch it a game. Okay. And I'm gonna change the category on Twitch to torso tennis.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. We've only got 9 followers on Twitch for the category torso tennis, which I don't think people typically find, right? I don't think people thank you for the biddies, cheese. Thank you.
So erect.
Oh, that's beautiful. I don't think people typically follow, right? Like they follow creators on the platform, right? Would you argue that, what would you say is your best kind of social media outlet to gain momentum on, right? Because thank you, everybody. Thank you for the biddies.
So erect.
What is the best social media? I think like for me right now, like I like streaming and I'll stream on Twitch. But as far as like getting eyes on my game, I definitely prefer like short video platforms right now. So I'll make TikToks and just post those across.
That's where I found you, I think, right? I think I reached out to you on TikTok initially, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I don't have these apps generally installed on my phone. I usually just go through the web browser to send out all my videos and stuff. But yeah, I think it's the way to reach people nowadays. So that's why I do it.
Nice. All right, here's the art for the game, which, like I said, love. In all of your games that I've seen so far, it kind of has this, I guess, claymation aspect, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like claymation.
Do you like design in Blender and then make 2D conversions of that? How do you make this art?
Yeah, so it's different for every game, kind of how the process works and how I get the wiggliness to it. But so for the title of Torso Tennis, it's a picture of actually modeled clay, and then it's recolored in Photoshop or Krita, actually.
Ooh, I like Krita.
Yeah, Krita's great.
Open source for the win.
Yeah, exactly. And then I have kind of like a wiggle shader that is on all of the items in the game, essentially, where it just kind of moves around the the kind of thing that the sprite is on, and it just makes it look like this claymation effect is happening based off of one image instead of having to make several images.
Right. Okay. That's pretty cool. It's interesting. As we get into it, would you recommend that I jump into a new run, or I beat it before? Should I jump into
run?
Okay. Because you do have all these challenges, right?
That's
and
true.
but it's that like we got our boy, right? It just jumps you right in. And did you there's not really like a tutorial of much, right? I think the first time I launched it, it did give me a bit of instruction, but you know, we're just kind of jumping into it now.
Yeah, you can replay the tutorial if you really want to. It just teaches you about how to serve the ball, how to spin the ball, and basically I feel like this is a hard thing I had with the game, where it was like, what even is this? Is people's first reaction to seeing this grid-based gameplay.
Yeah.
So I do have a little playable cutscene essentially where you serve a ball to a spot, you return a ball, and just kind of see what it's like to play. And then it does throw you right in after that.
Right. Would you say that it was difficult to kind of find a balance for that? And I could yoink a limb here, right? But I'd say economy is kind of a good early game goal personally. Am I getting the wrong strategy here? Because don't you need to spend money too when you yoink a limb?
The first opponent has no limbs anyway, so that technically shouldn't even. I probably should have had a special case to blank out that button there. But...
Yeah, it's a very beautiful, very full-featured body over here, right?
Exactly.
But even future ones, it's still like economy is important in the game, right? You've got your money, we've got, and also I love this, how the eyes follow. That
that was the quickest thing to add to, I think, most impact in the whole game, with the eyes following it.
All right, do you want to describe the game a little bit, right? Because we aren't doing the tutorial, right? We're on week 1 of 8. We have the 3 matches, right? But I'll let you break it down a little bit at what we see here.
Definitely narrate, especially while you're in the gameplay, because it's really hard. Something I've noticed is it's really hard to talk while you're in the matches in this game.
Oh my god, especially the later matches. Yeah, if you want to give some narrative, and give me an advice on your pick for maybe we can get a fun build that I haven't thought of. Yeah, you can get more pockets too, Lauren.
Yeah, but I see you've got familiar mustard or slice. The Arcana build is kind of fun. I'm not crazy about the cheese build. I do like, I think mustard or familiar.
We love cheese.
Starting item.
So that's my mod right here.
Oh, that's true. We could go for the cheese is kind of like the lifesteal build. When
we did that last time I played, though. I think I went for a cheese build. So, like, let me know what your pick here would be, and then talk about the game as I get into gameplay. Would you say mustard?
Familiar.
Oh, I can. My ears work. Don't judge me. Does it matter which limb I put it on?
Not yet. When you get tattoos, it does start to matter. They might trigger your right arm, for example, or your head slot. So, but right now it doesn't matter. It's all style.
Yeah, look, preview tattoos. We ain't got no tattoos yet. Shop's closed.
So you're able to buy a limb here, and then the limbs will kind of, during different conditions in the game, they will trigger and have a special effect. So this one is when you the magic limbs allow you to gather tennis balls that are bouncing around you and add them to your return. And so when that happens, you have a chance of spawning critters. It's one of the more advanced limb types in the game is the Arcana, which is why I kind of have that as an unlockable later in the game. Because coming straight out the bat, like if this is your first time playing a game, you would not draw that in your first turn.
Right. Is there a sort of like unlock a deep unlock system for as you play?
Yeah, so it's not super deep. I didn't like things that really, like a lot of roguelikes, they just taper all that content out over so much time. Like I think one in particular that bothered me was Enter the Gungeon. Like I really wanted
So
to love the
much.
game more, but it just felt like I wasn't getting the full experience right away. And there's like so much unlockables that were just kind of buried behind it. Whereas like Nuclear Throne, you just like jump in and you're just like right into the action, and then like you unlock a character and like whatever. But like the difference in those two games, I think for me is is something that I think a lot about design wise. And so I wanted to make it very clear, like when you progress to a certain number of weeks in the game, that's what unlocks stuff for you, not necessarily I'm going to check how much time you have played and then then give you a meter and XP that builds up. It's like, no, it's just like when you progress to week 6, that's when you unlock the Arcana limbs. When you progress to week 8, that's when you unlock something else. So that way it's just kind of based on your actual progression in the game.
Well, there is kind of something to be said about, I love Nuclear Throne, and brain fart, you're gonna know this though. What is the studio, specifically the guy that, what is his name? Nuclear.
Lambier?
Huh?
JW?
Lambier, yeah. Like Super Crate Box.
Yeah.
I think they did Ridiculous Fishing. A lot of stuff, right? And then there's huge expansive things like Hades or Returnal, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like finding a balance between like that kind of dopamine rush you get from, because if it's just Noida, right, where it's more of a traditional rogue-like, not a roguelite, right, where it's just you jump in, you do a run, and then you have the feature-rich full game versus Hades, where narrative unlocks and other things, right? And you feel a sense of progression, and finding a balance between those two can be important, because sometimes with something like Noida, right, like I die and I'm just like, fuck this shit, I'm out, you know? And I'll get interested later and come back to it, but with Hades, I feel even if I'm dying, there's narrative progression and other things that keep me coming back to it. And do you think that like there's a perfect balance to that, or do you think both ends of that spectrum offer very different things that are valuable in and of themselves? Also, give me an input.
Blades are always good.
All right.
It probably needs to be nerfed.
Okay, still no, until I get a tattoo, not a big deal on which limb it is yet, right?
Nope.
Oh, I forgot you can customize your I played. I didn't see this until after I had played for quite a bit of time, and I was like, oh, fancy.
Yeah, but you can have a mustache, you can change your body type. In the back of my head, there's still a mouth DLC that needs to come out. Because I only put 3 mouths in the game, but like I never got I was just too embarrassed, I think, to ask people to what I was calling harvest their mouth. So 2 of those mouths are mine, and one of them is my wife's mouth.
Oh, fun lore.
So, yeah, exactly. So I did actually, Bryles in the chat, I harvested Bryles' mouth, but I never put it in the game. So I think the Bryles DLC, I think is probably going to come out someday. So you're doing good here. You've got a good movement stat already pretty early in the game. You've got him on the ropes here with the 3 health. You're returning everything that's coming to your side of the court. You're looking good. I think we're off to a good start here. But you were asking me about the meta progression, because that was something I did struggle with for like so much during the development of this, and I have some insights for you.
Okay.
In case you have something else you're about to say.
Let's choose a tattoo before you give me some meta insights, and also bring the mouse. We can't have any hidden mouths. Oh, and can you tell me which mouth is yours?
Yeah, you've got the mustache is me, and then
you had a mustache? Goddamn stud muffin.
I had one this morning and I shaved it off.
Whoa!
Yeah, I let the beard go too long, and then I usually do a mustache for a day, and then I'll shave it all off.
Nice. I can relate to that. before you get into the meta progression, do you think there's a good preference for a tattoo for this build? Maybe,
Get the gathering for sure.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say with the penguin, right?
Yep. And it's just a good defensive tattoo to have for sure.
Mustard! I just needed to do it because of the song, but I don't need to get mustard.
So the cool thing about the level 1 limbs is like you can always sell them back for exactly the same amount that you bought them for, which is like, I don't know, I feel like most roguelikes like to punish that, but I'm like, whatever, like it's early in the game, you should be allowed to try stuff and sell it back and whatever, you know.
Yikes is donating his mouth if you need more mouths, and I don't think it's a beautiful mouth. Yikes. Wait, say that again about knife.
I was saying, I forget what I was saying, but
the ADHD's in this game is, like you said, hard to focus on and talk and all that other stuff.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things. Like I couldn't figure out if this was like an auto battler or an action game, and it landed somewhere between them. Especially when you get into the late game, it's like your run is just kind of
autopilot.
Your build is popping off, and you're just running around the map, right? And but it is that hectic joy. You do kind of start to, get really into it and can't really concentrate on much else.
I think I might re-roll.
Yeah. So you've got, so it's the Tenny coming up this week. Oh, look at that. You got Mage Hat and Potion. I do like the Mage.
Okay, let's just go. I like it. Let's go with it.
And the Mage Hat is the only 3D modeled item in the game, by the way. That was a 3D modeled hat that I ran through the same Photoshop filters that I do for all the other things that are just pictures. Yep.
And then, wait, this tattoo that we got... Wait, where is our tattoo? How do we look at our tattoos? Oh, right here. That's just... It's automatically working. It's not limb specific, right? The tattoo will... Okay. So we're still good. And I don't fully understand how... Because it gets so chaotic, and I'm just kind of like, what I'm doing is working, that I'm like, I don't want to test things out, but you can get more pockets, right? And then there's chance for some things to have, like, pocket triggers and stuff, too. Right, which we'll get into in a minute. But tell me about the meta stuff you wanted to tell me a moment ago.
So the meta thing is like, originally when I scoped this game out, I was like, it's going to be a Noida-like experience. Everything is going to be in the game. There's just not going to be any unlockables. You're just going to play it. But then the meta progression really solves two problems for roguelikes, where you have this problem where people are overwhelmed by the amount of information that they're presented with early in the game. So especially for more complex item sets, like you don't want them to run across that on their first run. So either you have to kind of like fudge their first run in a way that they don't experience those things and experience the proper, progression of items, or you add some sort of meta progression in where you gate those items under unlocks. And then that also makes the game theoretically more replayable because people want to unlock stuff, right? So you're solving the too much information tutorial problem, and you're solving like a more like kind of long-term interest in the game problem. So that's, I think that's why meta progression is so popular in this genre. And I think people have their own preferences of games that have done it right and have done it wrong. So.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think Hades is a very good example of one that's done the meta progression in a way that benefits the game as a whole in a very positive way. Noida is one that I personally love, but I think could potentially, with the... it doesn't it doesn't communicate to the player the complexity of the magic system well enough and give a sandbox that's communicated to you to just test it out and learn what's going to work on builds without punishing you for it. That I think for some players, right, like they're going to be potentially put off without getting to experience a large portion of the game just because the systems are so complex and in there from the get-go without some sort of progression to build up to it. And I think some people obviously adore Noida and it works for them and they don't want to spend hours and hours and hours kind of getting to the meat of the game. So it's like, does it value your time? I think the way Hades does it by doing it as both a mechanical unlock, but the narrative thing keeps you engaged in the story is a good balance of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think Hades does it beautifully. The narrative reveals and like the slow things that make you nudge you a little bit further into towards the surface, I think are really great in that game. And yeah, I think, I mean, I haven't played Noida in a while. I think I played it in early access. But it would be very cool to have just a sandbox mode in that where you're able to experiment with all this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that got added or anything.
Well, here's the best thing that I found that you can do in Noida is that you can go through the entire first area and you get to the like hub where you purchase new things before you go into the next section, and you can experiment in there and it'll have a thing at the top that kind of shows various factors, but it doesn't communicate to the player exactly what's happening, and you're only limited to testing what you have. Thank you for the pets, Raptor. You're only limited to testing the things that you have equipped and the things that you have the currency to purchase and experiment with in there. So it's like it's not a true sandbox. It's just a little micro test, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I've gotten that feedback too on Tours of Tennis that people would like a sandbox mode. And I've thought about it, and I haven't put it in yet.
Fair. I don't know if you really need it because it's so quick and easy to get into and start.
Oh, I feel.
And like builds get so chaotic that I'm not even sure. I think it would lose some of the meaning of discovering those builds along the path and feeling the reward of like, oh, dope, dope, dude. I don't even have to do anything. It's just crushing them. Should I prioritize saving money and kind of working through to steal maybe some limbs or something? Do you think any of these?
The Deteni leg is a favorite. Of most people that play the game. That seems to be like the leg of Deteni seems to be the thing that wins you the game. I think generally speed is very important. Okay,
and that'll be, I think, like 8, right? So I'm gonna have to get through this and get some money, and then I can get that.
Yeah.
We'll prioritize that.
You can always sell your limbs too to.
Oh yeah. It's really tricky to me also, the aiming system, especially and thinking about, I don't know, the flip side and spin, I guess putting spin on the ball as what you would describe it as.
That's what it's called in the game, where you get one tile of directional influence over the returns.
Oh, nice, Bryle. How much do you think you could get for a limb? We're only getting a few bucks here. If you give up one of your limbs, buddy, I hope you get more than a few dollars.
Bryle's actually worked with me on the jam version of this game. Bryle's done a lot of the art for the cheese limbs. The reason why cheese is in this game at all is because of Bryle, so thank you.
Well, thank you, Bryle. As I said, we love cheese. Shout out to cheese, dude. Thank you for bringing the cheese. Sell your arm and a leg for a car. I'm not really using our car anymore, but you'd have to go to China. But I'll take your limbs. And I'll appreciate your cheese legacy, or chegacy, if you will. Is that like a sports water bottle?
It is a sports water bottle.
For the thank you for the compliments for the tennis, dude. For the tennis, right? You really.
Schematic. All right, so this is the first rival encounter of the game. I'm going to narrate for you. Jiteni is kind of like a gentle introduction to like some of the mechanics of the game, like these racket zones where you got that 9 stack. Oh, brought it in for 11. You got to keep your eye on that 11. That's a killer ball right there.
Okay.
Running the 12. You got to keep your eye on that shit.
That was scary.
Okay, it's gonna go in. It's gonna go in.
Ooh. Yeah, sometimes it gets chaotic. It can be hard to read all the information, and react. I'd say in the earlier match, like there's the first, week? You call them weeks, right? The first week, manageable, slow enough that you can kind of take it in. And then after a couple of weeks, there's a brief window before you've kind of created a build where it's just like, and especially when you're new to the game, where you're like, what is going on? The rush, the panic to kind of try to figure out what's going on screen and what's mechanically going.
That is the hurdle I noticed with playtesting. I think some people make it over that hurdle and become fully immersed in the game, and other people they see that hurdle and they go, nah, which is fine. This is fine.
Yeah, not every game needs this. This is something I've jumped into last weekend, right? Bungie's got their new game coming out. They had the server slam for Marathon, which is introducing a lot of new people to Marathon, which is an old... We don't need to get into history. But anyway, tons of haters, dude. People love to hate stuff online more than ever right now, right? And it's really bothered me because I've been jumping into a few streams here and there this week for Marathon, and people just join other people's streams and they're like, oh, it's garbage. Oh, it's Roblox. Oh, I don't like it. It's bad. And it's like, dude, a game could be good, right? Like Civilization, I would argue, is a stupendous game and a very good example of a game that is competently designed, fun, and rewarding, but definitely not for everyone. Not everybody likes turn-based. Not everybody wants a long turn-based game with that level of involvement and economy and politics and things going on within it that you have to juggle. Religion, all of these complex systems. And I think it's okay if somebody plays your game and is like, cool, I like the art, I like the sound or something. I don't know if it's a vibe for me, and respecting that, dude. Good for you, bro. It's a fun game. Oh my God. Momo, hold on. Give me 5 seconds. I gotta release the mode.
It took hours because you didn't stat max it up. Oh yeah, it happens sometimes. Yeah, the torso tennis quite
insane, and she's like climbing a shelf in here and gonna just she's gonna break a lot of stuff. Sorry about that.
You gotta get it down.
Yeah, would you recommend a tattoo here for my build? We don't really have arm.
Tennis elbow is kind of good. So you can trigger your arm slots, and then you can put the bonus serve ones there.
Okay. We'll do that. I don't know if I have a bonus serve one right now, though. Do I? Oh, yeah, I already got it on my arm. Okay, we already got it built.
So now, let's see. So I don't think the hat can be force triggered, so you want to move that out of your arm slot.
Okay. Does it say if something... it says cannot be force triggered.
Yeah, there's a lot of fire. Yeah, the wild limbs. So, yeah.
Nice.
So I would put the familiar there, or if you're going to get something like the bionic arm or the flap, you could put a flapper there, get a little defense with the shells. But that's up to you.
I mean, we're doing okay. I figure save my money, rock the Tanny, and see how we do. But yeah, what are your thoughts, you know, in large about that? Like, people hated on Arc Raiders. Now they're hating on Marathon and comparing it to Arc Raiders. And what are your thoughts as a creator in the space, you know, about kind of people jumping on the hate train, you know?
Yeah, obviously I don't like it. I mean, I think what you said sums it up pretty well, that like people are hating now more than ever. And I think there have been a lot of instances where people through their hate have seen changes made that they think that that's an appropriate way to ask for what they want or whatever from people that are making stuff. And I just think it's really rude. And then like people that have spent years of their life on these games, like in AAA studios, it's not like they don't know the things that are maybe not as good about the game as they would want it to be, right? And they're just powerless to change that. It's like it's a giant ocean liner, and they're just controlling one paddle on it, right? And so they're very aware maybe if they're off course or what's wrong with the ship, more so than the people that are, you know, complaining about the game. So I think, yeah, there's just a general lack of understanding that the devs, like lazy devs, are like, oh, how could they launch something so buggy? It's like,
I mean, it's insane.
Probably about more of the bugs than you do. Like,
yeah. I mean, there was a free play server slam, right, last weekend. Mm-hmm. And there are a ton of people that didn't even play the server slam that are still echoing the sentiments that they've heard from. I would argue a large part of it stems from like short form content, like TikTok, people just jumping on and rage baiting and then imitating other viral or semi-viral trends where they put, and so it's like you wind up with this feed of people saying this game's garbage, you know, just trying to do engagement bait, right? And then people jump on that without taking the time to formulate their own opinion, because it's, you know, through the feed and just seeing it echoed enough times, they're like, well, it must be true. And people don't have the patience, right? People are more, I guess, ADHD prone than ever before now, right? Where they're just like, I'm not gonna go play that and formulate my own opinion, dude. Why would I do that?
Yeah, there's good things about the way that the media landscape is, that anyone can have their voice heard, but yeah, there's way too much chance for misinformation to spread, and like people to just like pseudoscientific beliefs and stuff like that can just be spread so quickly on those platforms. And yeah, I think like I would like people to, I don't know, I want gamers to be better. I want them to be more respectful. I don't know.
Oh, 100%, dude. Ideal world, right? Look at this, though. Just side tangent for the game. That would be pretty cool with my tattoos, right?
Yeah, I think bionic arm could work.
And then put that on the arm and move the familiar to the head.
Yeah, I think that could work pretty well. And then you're popping off with the bonus serves.
Oh, and so this is how you do the leveling. You keep getting the same thing and drag and drop them, which I thought was cool. It felt satisfying being like, oh, it's getting fancier. You know, like I invested and continued to make use of it so it scales into late game.
Yep, so that's a common thing in auto battlers, right? The whole combining of items to get the higher level item.
Right.
But one thing I found frustrating with that is just like, you have to like roll down the shop always to finish up your build, which is annoying. Okay, we're on Jim Coach now, which is the second rival of the game. Always have weak spots on Jim Coach's side of the court, so you can serve into those in the auto score. But I think like with, sorry, I lost my train of thought. You don't have to correct me, but Yeah, I think with the auto battler thing, rolling down the shop was so frustrating. So that's how the limb stealing thing I felt like was a solution to that, where you could steal like a max level limb from an opponent, and then that you can jump into like a max level item in a way that in an auto battler you have to like roll the shop like hundreds of times to get that max level item.
Right.
So the yoinking actually was quite a nice design choice.
Yeah, it can be tough balancing that. Sometimes a 1 or 2 rerolls, right, and getting something you really need can feel satisfying, right? But if you're just sitting there and grinding money to reroll. I've been back on Balatro recently, and like, you know, on a higher difficulties and stuff, sometimes like your economy's really difficult, especially in early game, and it's like, I didn't get a fucking Joker I wanted, you know, and like I still fucking love the game, but there's some runs that I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, I don't want to spend my money. It's not worth it, you know, on the higher stakes where like earning the money is a lot more difficult and stuff, and it hurts to like be like, I have to re-roll. Maybe get tennis knee here, side tangent, and then
think work or rocket lungs could work as well. Get the reload speed up a little bit.
Try out rocket lungs. I haven't done that.
I don't think either of your legs can be force triggered right now.
Okay.
You could swap the familiar down there, but yeah.
Yeah, we're leveling this up.
I think that's part of why I made the reroll never goes up in dollar cost, because I don't know. I don't think that's a fun part of these games. Is like, I mean, having a good decision about whether you reroll or not it can be fun, but like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I was pretty cautious about that stuff like that, and then the selling back the items for full price if you haven't upgraded them at all. I was like, the shop should be more generous, and it should be like.
You wanted people to have fun, right? Not just be like, damn it, not again.
Yeah, making juicy choices is fun. Oh, nice grabbing the 5 stack there.
I didn't want to let that hit me.
Yeah, setting up the shop in such a way that allows for good choices is nice, and I think like the yoinking kind of serves that in this, where you're like, oh, do I do more of a roll the shop down kind of build, or do more of a yoink focus build?
If I do a bonus serve build, should I swap out these mustards for like as an arm and get rid of like the penguin or the arm?
So the mustards trigger on like throwing an item on the court, or serving on an item. So you would have to have either
and I have neither of those. It's kind of a waste right now.
Yeah, it's very situational. You can't put mustard on every sandwich, right?
You can. I don't know if Wookie is here, but I think I think Wookie's a big fan of mustard, and I believe he's described a sandwich he puts mustard on that might be questionable to some people. I don't remember what it is. If he comes out of the woodworks.
The favorite Final Fantasy of Bryles is Final Fantasy VIII. I know that for sure. But I saw your question there, but I would answer for her.
We were talking about that. I haven't played 8, and there a lot of people hated on it back in the day. I kind of want to go back and try it out. But I've been playing Chrono Trigger on stream, and like if I grow and it makes sense to do longer streams, right? You know, rather than using time outside it, doing marketing, editing, other things like that. I'd like to maybe do it, but Chrono Trigger's been really hard because it's a shorter JRPG, right? And it's taking me almost 2 months to finish it on stream, you know? Like, and FF8 is substantially longer, system heavy. It's a bit of a big bite for a stream, so I don't know if I'll play it off stream or what, but it's interesting that it's his favorite because people often are, FF7, FF6, FF4, you know, like for me it's FF9. but a lot of people that like FF8 love FF8.
Yeah, exactly.
Stat maxing and emo boy lover heaven. Beautiful. I am not Bryle. I thought about it, and I'm doing SNES, and then eventually, at some point on stream, I will be doing that. Those are absolutely amazing cutscenes, though. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Screw it. Here we go. We're gonna go in.
Yeah, so this is each of the weeks in Tours of Tennis has a theme. Like they try to grab limbs from the same set. So this one is the head type limb. So they have all of the things that trigger with bonus serve. So, and also they're pretty healthy. They got quite a bit of health. Oh, that gather coming in handy. But yeah, they're just rocking the cheese ball on you. But you're
so I didn't realize that there was themes because it's so chaotic. That's interesting. Yep. But it's like I kind of just get it when I've played. I just get into the nice. I could see that, Bryle. I kind of just get into a flow state, and I'm just that sounds good. Let's roll with it, you know. And I just kind of like flowed through an entire playthrough. Just vibing with it, because for me, from what I've played of it, it's like there's just enough strategy and thought and stuff that it's like it's engaging to my brain, but then I kind of find some momentum and I just kind of like zone out and vibe with it, if that makes sense.
Good. Yep, that's what I want. And the extra information is there for people that really want to dig into what all their opponents have and like read all that before the matches and stuff, right?
Okay.
But you don't have to, and that's kind of my preferred way to play, honestly, is to not look at all that stuff. It just rip through and try to get my build coming together.
I mean, it could be a little overwhelming, right? I mean, like you've got all these different stats, you've got pockets and you know, and it's like you kind of start to get a feel for what works and doesn't work as you play. And it's just quirky and fun and whimsical, you know? It's fun to just kind of roll with it. I really do love your art, man, and I'm very excited for, like, seeing it, you know, how you progressed as a creator with, Forklift.
The forklift flower pot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're fighting against Spewer right now, who has a unique item in this game where it will, any serves Spewer does will be spread randomly across the court, so it makes it very difficult to kind of manage these volleys that get sent out. But you've got a good gather stat, so yeah, that's often a run ender right there. Because if you don't have the proper defensive capabilities, you can't make it past that.
I mean, should I get his spewer ability? It's a fucking gun pointing at you. I just noticed that after I described it. It's like a shotgun blast. Would that be a good thing? I don't know if I have the money for it. Huh?
This is the first gun I ever put in one of my games.
Nice. You're like, I don't know how to feel about guns, but that's a gun ability.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if I wanted, I wouldn't afford it, right? They got 4.
I mean, you could sell some stuff for it. I mean, you can always open the Yoink menu and look at it, and then go back from the Yoink menu. That's kind of what I like to do.
What? To steal, literally.
I'll open the Yoink menu, and then you can press return instead of. But then you don't really have a spot for it. I mean, you could get rid of the arm, but that's like.
It's kind of clutch right now.
Yeah.
Get the money. Every 10 serves trigger the head slot. I mean, what do the critters do again?
Critters are turrets that spawn on your side of the court. So you're not like every time you get a a gather, that's having a chance to trigger.
I mean, Death Wish might be interesting, right?
Yeah, let's see. I don't think you have any take damage triggers on your items.
Oh, I thought it meant if I take damage, effect. Yeah, I misread that.
Oh, you know what? That's actually a really good note. I think people had that confusion in playtesting, and I never found a way to better word that.
Yeah.
So there's not really
I can't think of a better way to word it. But you highlighting it does help.
Yeah.
It's like a member of the community itself, bro. Dude, it's a very distinct style, I will say that. Maybe tennis head or tennis knee? Is there any benefit to skipping? Not really, right?
No, only if you got something to prove. So I think the tennis head is a great play.
Okay.
Like something to prove.
I have a lot of things I need to prove, but I mean, I could go out. I don't know, man. I mean, I could give up the mage hat, but I don't think it's worth it. We're gonna go. What I'm doing's working. Spam, what are you gonna prove to me?
Good job closing those rips. That's something where at first I didn't have where you step on the weak spots, they close.
Right.
They were so strong. Like you could just be destroyed by them, and you have no way of defending. So now, like at least if you've got speed, you can kind of counter that and run to all the spots.
Ah. Oh. I kind of panicked for a second. Cheese. Nice. Boom.
I do have the triple cheese stick there. I forget what that one does. Chance of bonus serves. That was one of the last items I put in the game was the cheese stick.
From Bryle. Bryle's gift to us, right?
Yeah, the cheese build overall, but that one only had. It didn't have the stick yet, and because I wasn't sure where to take the cheese build for the longest time, and so that was one of the last. I had to flesh out the build from the jam version. You know, it was like there was some semblance of a cheese build, and like it wasn't until very late that it came together.
Right. I don't think yoinking's the move here. Maybe leveling some of this stuff.
Yeah, I mean the potions. Yeah, it could be a play if you want to do more of the Arcana and gather base, but yeah, leveling would be good. I'm trying to think. Okay, so you got the gathers.
The badge! You know it, Cheese. It is done. I mean, maybe trying the shop again here. He's the potions. If I want the potions, I can get them from this guy.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then swap out the mage hat, maybe? Because the tenny leg's pretty powerful. Right?
Yeah, that could work.
Alright, let's try
you can swap out the arm, the bionic arm, for the potions.
Okay.
So you got those 3 rips. Oh yeah, nice closing them. Good stuff.
Oh shit, almost got trashed. Ah, fuck.
Get those potions. It's okay, they've only got one, see that's the thing about the mage build, like even though you can spawn all these, like the critters, you can spawn the trash and stuff, like they're not like leveled up as high as they would be if you had gathered all of those limb types, so like if you had like all snack build, then the snack would stun you for longer, or stun your opponent for longer, versus like, oh, if you're just spawning it as a part of the potion, then it's just not gonna.
Oh my god, dude, it's getting close.
Okay, it's combined. Okay, so now you just got one. Okay, the 28 didn't matter.
Dude, it was scary though. When you seeing that number, yeah, that badge is dope, villain. Are you a fan of Resident Evil or survival horror? You said swap out bionic arm, right?
Yeah, probably for the potions if you've got the money for it.
Damn it! I wasn't even paying attention. Now I sold it off like an idiot. Well, I guess I'll take the familiar.
I see. I'm watching your stream behind. I couldn't get that information into you in time. Okay, so you've got Pelvis Pickleball coming up. When Pelvis Pickleball is at half health, your entire side of your field is filled with rips. So you have to kind of either be ready to close out the match when the power pickle activates, or you have to like somehow survive it by running and closing all of the rips.
All right, do I get one of these? I need to get something here to be able to fight him.
Flapper could be a play, but
I can maybe do.
Yeah, I think.
Huh?
The flapper will get those shells will get pulled off by the rips. So anything you spawn on your court will get destroyed when the rips come in.
All right. Well, we wanted potion.
Like, a little bit of shell is good. Yeah, potion might be good there too. Then you have the full arcana. You'll be rocking it with the gather stat now. Like basically every time you return, you can probably gather.
All right, let's see. And they're talking about the umbrella badge. Do you like survival horror? Do you like indie survival horror? Are you a fan of Resident Evil? Elvis Pickleball. Michael, do you like survival horror, Resident Evil?
Oh, you're talking to me.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't played too much. I really liked Signalis. It was really cool.
I really want to play that. I heard very good things.
Yeah, it had incredible vibes, and I just played through the whole thing. Yeah, I can't say I'm too experienced in the genre, but I like what I played. Oh! That 13 is dangerous there.
Yeah, I saw the 13. I couldn't move there fast enough. But anyway, that was a pretty good run. 5 out of 8 weeks. But yeah, I have beaten it. It's pretty fun stuff. Oh, you can select a limb to bring into your next run? I didn't even know that before.
Yeah, it's a nice way of like, if someone beat you and their ability was bothersome or whatever, or like you want to steal something off someone you beat, you can start a new run with that.
Yeah.
But it does make it a lot harder because the enemies scale like, I don't know, it just makes the beginning of the game a lot harder because you don't have a build together, but the enemies are scaling a lot better.
Right. That was fun though. I appreciate you giving some input. And dude, for you, speaking of survival horror, not for everybody, but knowing you like quirky, unique, experimental stuff, dude, you're deeply involved in the indie scene, I highly recommend the developers Barak Decay.
Okay.
Huh? What do you say?
I'll check that out.
Yeah, there's the Count Lucanor, which is a short survival horror pixel art RPG that actually gets spooky. Very weird, very cool, beautiful artwork for cutscenes and stuff. You could beat it in maybe 3 to 6 hours. And then Yuppie Psycho, which is very weird and awesome, but very weird. But I highly recommend it if you check them out. I'm curious what your thoughts on them would be. And does anybody have any questions for Michael before he has to go? And I got a question for you. What games are you playing lately? Recently, what's your go-tos?
Yeah, so I recently got back into Hollow Knight for the second time because our group, we do like a Game of the Month club. So I was playing that for a bit. And then I said if you were going to ask this question that I should recommend a game called Replicat to you. It's like a Balatro-like with memory matching and their cats on the cards. Very cool game made by someone who's pretty active on Twitch in the game development community. So Replicat's pretty cool. I think there's a big update for it coming next week.
Nice. I just found it on Steam. And there's a demo. I'll definitely check out the demo probably tonight Well,
Yeah,
night for me. Yeah.
the thing about this game that it took a while for it to click for me because it's memory matching. You can't just like click around like random. Like sometimes when you're getting into these like flow state roguelikes, you're just kind of like clicking. You have to kind of slow down and like the same way you would before like a Souls boss. You have to like breathe and be like, okay, let's go about this methodically. And you go kind of like line by line and just kind of be like, okay, try to remember stuff. And you can make some crazy broken builds in it. It's very fun.
That's cool. I'm definitely getting the demo. I'm gonna download it now. Very cool. And Spam is asking which game took the longest, which I think would be Forklift Flower Pot, which you're working on right now, right?
Yeah, Forklift Flower Pot and Calendar Time has taken the most time. I think it's 10.
How long is it?
4 years that I've had that project open.
Okay. And then shortest projects would be like game jam games, right? Just a weekend or a day.
Yeah, I think my shortest though, like commercial project is 10D Robot Gardener, which we didn't really talk much about, but that was like about a year development cycle while I was employed full time, and I was able to kind of get it out pretty quickly. A small scope, like 2-hour, cute little puzzle game.
Nice. Brian has a really important question for you. If you could be a bird, what bird would you want to be?
I'd be I saw that in the chat and already thought of an answer. The ruby-throated hummingbird is like something like I imagine what the perception of a hummingbird would be like. Like what? Like your clock rate is insane. Like you probably have an entirely different perception of reality. The way those birds operate and fly around, and like the way they enter like a torpor state where they just completely like pass out for a little bit. I don't know. I think that would be a unique experience.
I'm going to bring it up for people to see. Everybody, this is what Michael would be. Goddamn beautiful, if I do say so myself. You've seen him dance. And I'm also curious, talking about what you've been playing lately and stuff, and games. Do you think that there are any indie games in your mind in particular that deserve more attention? I just mentioned Brock Decay, like anything like that that's flying under the radar for people.
Let me open my Steam library here real quick. It's hard to think of these things off the top of your head. But more attention. I guess just like while it's loading up here, I think for me, I like playing stuff from people that I know that are in the community because I can have like a direct relationship with the developer. So a lot of the games that are just being developed in North Carolina right now are some of my favorites because like I just love being a part of the process of seeing them like develop further. I don't know if that makes sense.
That makes sense. It's the ongoing kind of process of seeing it grow and everything, and you feel a connection to it.
Yeah. Okay. I have my pick. My sleeper pick here is called Frog's Adventure. It's a sock pop game.
Oh,
it's all done in this crayon art style.
Sock Pop's another collective.
Yeah.
Let me bring
it's like
it
a very cute aesthetic, like just adventure game where you're a frog and it's all colored pencil drawings. It's just very like it was probably the most relaxing afternoon I had playing a video game in a long time.
Sock Pop's really cool. Would you like to kind of what do you think about their model? Right? I think it kind of aligns with a lot of your kind of thoughts on how you go about work and work with other people. And do you personally know any people in Sock Pop?
No, I don't know any of them, but I recently did like a deep dive on a lot of their games because I was curious, and so I've played a lot of their games. I really think what they're doing is amazing in terms of like allowing themselves to be more creative by funding themselves on this kind of monthly basis like this.
Yeah.
It's not something, I wrote an article about this. It's not something that I think is recreatable. I think they have a special magic because they all met each other when they were very young,
right,
in college still. They were able to develop a shared sense of like design sensibility and artistic sensibility about what their games are like. So it feels like a consistent authorship, even though they're all solo developed games technically. And then the other thing is they're all just insanely hard workers. Like they basically get a 4-month window to make their games, and they make a consistent polished game every month. I know they've slowed down kind of the development of their games and stuff.
Right.
I applaud them for doing that. And I think that speaks something to how draining this must have been on them over the years, that they're not like, oh yeah, this is great, let's keep this up. This
Yeah.
Now that they're doing better, like now that they've had a game really like pop off, like Stacklands did so well for them, like they're able to kind of step back and slow down a little bit, which I think is like, okay, what they were doing was not sustainable.
Yeah, I think it was good for, kind of getting attention, gaining support. Also, going back to our earlier discussion, and for those of you that are unaware, Sock Pop is another gaming collective, and they have a monthly subscription where they put out a game every month. And then if you don't want to subscribe and maybe check them out later, most of the games are available on Steam, maybe on some other platforms like Itch, I'm not sure. But it's been pretty cool. And that kind of time constraint, and picking something to work on and pump it out in that short turnaround probably has, pushed their creativity in ways that it wouldn't have otherwise. But also for years of doing this, it also has limitations. They don't allow them to always expand on projects that maybe with a little bit more time in the oven could have been really, really cool. I snapped my paw. Did I do that? I don't even know anymore. But yeah, I think Stacklands is absolutely stellar. I really like the art style on Frog's Adventure. I also like another game that they made called Similand, which is like a weird Yeah, you played that one? It's neat, right? It's a fun little sandbox, and seeing the way that they all interact with each other and everything is pretty neat. But yeah, do we have
Oh yeah, you're wrapping up.
No.
You're out there. It's made by they published it. It's made by Daniel Linson, and it's like a very if you like Outer Wilds, you like that sort of discovery based gameplay. It's a really good one.
What's it called?
Leap Year. It's a very short, like 3 to 4 hour platformer where you kind of discover rules about how the world works.
Bring it up here. Overwhelmingly positive reviews. Good for them. Very cute art style.
Yeah.
Oh, this looks
like I said,
great.
It's all about the discovery in this one.
So this is Daniel Linson and Sock Pop. Is Daniel Linson part of Sock Pop, or just they published it? Okay. Very cool. I really, really dig the kind of cute, simple art style. It's got dancing friends. I'm sold.
So the thing about this, like, it's not really a spoiler. I mean, a lot is spoiler about this game, but like, anytime you fall more than 2 tiles, it's a platformer where you die when that happens, right? You have to reset. So you have to be like very careful about how you navigate the world. So yeah, and then you have to find ways to work around that system.
The art style reminds me of a game that you probably aren't familiar with, but it's an old flat, or I guess not flash game, but it's an old game called, here, I'll bring it up on stream if you want to look, called Secluse, which is like an exploration game, and the art, looks like, let me get a little bigger, like this, and I can link you to this if you're curious about checking it out. But I'd love if you have any other recommendations. I could pull you into my Discord, and you could maybe drop some recs in there, and we could discuss further and share things like Secluse or other cool stuff that is from a while ago. But yeah. Do you have anything that you'd like to add on here as we're wrapping up? And I will be posting. Okay, I'll be posting links to, your website, your Discord, and anything. If anybody, that watched today or watches on YouTube in the future will be able to access. And you're an absolute legend. Thank you for joining. Thank you for bringing your community over here for Brile and your co-founder. What's your co-founder's name? Kirk, right? Kirk joining us.
Bryles is actually going to be taking over the group in a little bit here. That's not necessarily public knowledge yet, but you heard it here first, maybe.
You heard it here first, folks, and that is wild. Just follow up. What brought that about? Are you wanting to kind of focus a little bit more on your personal dev journey or what?
Yeah, focusing more on my games, and I'm having a baby this summer, so I'm
congratulations.
Yeah. So I'm going to be probably a little bit more busy lately, so I figured it was time to hand that off.
Totally. Well, congratulations, man. Let's go, Brile. I hope to hear great things from you. Brile, you too. Invite goes out to you if you want to join our Discord. He's saying you have big feet, dude. He's saying you have big feet. Big shoes to feel, maybe clown shoes? I don't know. I don't know how to interpret what you're saying here, Brile, but I'm sure you'll do good. And I'm sure that Michael has beautiful feet. He could probably be posting them on the internet if he needs some extra money. Just saying.
There is a graphic of my feet somewhere in torso tennis. It's a hidden thing that you'll have to find. I'm gonna put that up there.
Beautiful. Well, sorry again about the little bit of a rough start today. I really appreciate your patience and you joining us today. Not for free, for sure, bro. And you're an absolute legend. You do great things for the indie gaming space. I'm excited to look forward to what you're doing with Forklift Flower Pro. Oh, and you were gonna offer a key away, right? To give away to one of the viewers today. So if anybody wants to get a key, let me know. I think just because we're wrapping up and everything here, reach out in the Discord and I will do a game giveaway this weekend for a key for Torso Tennis. And if you'd like to join, I'll do an announcement in the Discord for the weekly game giveaway as well. Just because riling people up at the end here and getting people to join, and do a quick live giveaway might be a little difficult, but we do weekly game giveaways here every Friday, baby. And we'll be doing a game giveaway on the Discord this weekend for a copy of Torso Tennis. If you're interested, here's one more link in the Discord. I will talk to you soon, my friend Michael. It's been an absolute pleasure. Keep on doing your thing, dude, and I look forward to seeing more from you in the future. Stay sexy.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Later.
See ya.
Well, you guys, that was an absolute blast. I am so sorry for the late start today, but that was a ton of fun. It's been real. Appreciate Michael so much, and I appreciate you all for hanging out. Thank you, TooMuchTomato. Absolute sweetheart. That was an engaging and fun conversation. I think we learned some fun things today, and I look forward to doing more segments like this in the future. All right, we're going to be wrapping up stream here, and if anybody want to get that last redeem, go ahead and get that last redeem, because we didn't have Foist today, but we do have Zulets.
I have no idea.
Beautiful note to wrap up on. Beautiful note, you guys. Absolutely beautiful. I love you all. I hope you have a stupendous weekend. We're going to be raiding out in a moment here. Spread that positivity. far and wide. Stay sexy, my friends. And this is Riot Pill signing off. Until next time, over and out, Girl Scout. Mwah.